the best thing to do is to do something good locally. Having your farm be more organic or more regenerative, or having your garden be healthier. When you start doing things locally, just for you, you'll feel better. When tens of millions of people, because Matthew is powerful, when his impact comes through and tens of millions of people start behaving better, the whole planet will be better.
Hello and welcome to the Regenerative Design Podcast. I'm your host, Mathieu Mehuis, and each episode I interview leading authorities in regenerative practices, people who excel at doing well and doing good. So are you passionate about protecting our planet for future generations while thriving in business? Well, you're in the right place, because this podcast is dedicated to making our world better and your business more successful. Hello everyone, this is a very exciting moment. This in fact is the first podcast interview of the Regenerative Design Podcast, and today we have a very special guest to kick off with. Today our guest is none less than Raymond Aaron. Raymond Aaron is a New York Times top 10 best-selling author. He is a public speaker. He is a success coach. He has done numerous things that will blow your mind. One of which is that he did polar race. If you don't know what polar race is, you can look it up. It's one of the toughest races in the world, where you go 560 kilometers across, well, you go to the North Pole and back, and you're being dodged by polar bears. It's extremely cold. And Raymond is one of the few people on our planet who has actually done that race. So, Raymond, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm honored to be on the show, and you are such a powerful person with such an amazing image for the world that I'm glad to support you, and I'm honored to be your very first guest.
Well, thank you, Raymond. That's awesome. So I really would love to start from the beginning, because the impact that you have on the world is so big that you're gonna inspire people to make our planet a better place for many, many, many generations to come. So as a first question, I would love to understand from you, where did all of this start? Where, maybe go back to your very early beginning of your life.
Well, the beginning of my life was a disaster. I was 50 pounds overweight. My boss had just fired me. My wife had just divorced me. I was unemployed, $100,000 in debt at age 39. It was just a terrible situation. And my parents took me to Mexico on vacation, and I was sitting on top of a Mayan ruin in the Yucatan Peninsula. And sitting on top of that ruin, I heard a voice in my head, "Raymond, you're a teacher." I said, "Teacher? I don't have a teacher certificate. What are you talking about?" And I thought teacher meant a math teacher, because I graduated as a physicist and mathematician. And I didn't want to spend the rest of my life teaching math to high school students. And so I didn't know what it meant. And then what I realized later, it meant teaching adults how to dramatically improve their life. And so over the 41 years that I have been teaching, what I've noticed is that I help people individually do the right thing. And when lots of people do the right thing, the whole planet is better. And so my life is basically about individuals doing the right thing. It's something like think globally, act locally.
Yeah, I love that phrase. That's something that really resonates with me as well. And definitely in the realm of regenerating our planet.
Yes.
So thank you for mentioning that. Now, even further in your early days as a child, were there some hints to be found that you were going to become a mentor to so many people, or?
Well, my father, my uncle got very, very sick. and he rejected all medical treatment. What he did was fast. That means don't eat anything except water. Fasted for 30 days and got rid of a tumor that the doctors said was cancerous. And with vegetarianism and food combining and fasting, he cured himself. And so my uncle's brother, my father, flew down to Florida to talk to him and said, "How did you do that?" And my father learned about it, and he launched the largest nonprofit organization involved in non-medical treatments of illness in all of Canada.
Wow.
And he ran it for about 30 years, and he helped tens or maybe even hundreds of thousands of people have a better life. And he would bring in speakers from all over the world once a month, and he would promote it all around the city, and hundreds of people would come. And I would go to every one of those presentations, and I would see my father teaching at the front of the room, and then bringing in a special guest who would teach. And then I would see them selling books at the back. And that was what I thought life was. That's what I thought you're supposed to do when you grow up. And
Amazing.
so after I graduated as a physicist, I said, how on earth am I going to get groups of people to teach physics to? Who the heck wants to learn physics? And I started off teaching real estate, and then I started teaching life, and I started teaching goal setting, and I started teaching spirituality. And now through you, I'm teaching how to do a better job in your life and have that have a big impact on the whole world.
Yeah, thanks for explaining that. I really love that. And I know for a fact that you were really, as an early person, you were big into the field of physics and quantum physics. And I think that had, or the question is, did that have a big impact on your further life to learn about physics and quantum physics? Can you explain more about that?
Yes. What I noticed, or what physicists noticed, is that an electron can be one orbit away from the center of an atom or two orbits away, but they can't be 1.5 orbits away. So when energy is added to an atom, the electron jumps up to a higher orbit, but they can never find it halfway. It leaves the lower orbit, gets to the higher orbit, but how the heck could it get there? No, nobody could figure it out until Einstein came along and said the word quantum physics. And quantum, as you'd expect, has the same root as quantity. It just means a unit. So if you go to a grocery store, don't ask for 1 1/3 quarts of milk. Don't bother, because it comes in quanta. It comes in units called quarts or liters. So a grocery store will sell you a quart or 2 quarts, but not 1 2/3 quarts. And the similar thing with the electron, it stops being at the lower orbit and starts being at the higher orbit. And I realized if I launched a coaching program called Orbit, that I could add huge energy to an individual in terms of wisdom and ideas and suggestions, and they would instantly jump to a higher level, vibrate at a higher frequency. And when you vibrate at a higher frequency, you attract people who are at a higher frequency. You repel people who are at lower frequency. You attract higher ideas, and you repel lower ideas like gossip or complaining. And that's what's happened. And I now have one of the most successful coaching programs on earth. My Orbit coaching clients love me and love each other. And we get together in person once a year, and it's like the biggest hug fest of the universe.
I really love that. And what you mentioned about the higher frequencies, this is something that's been studied in the plant world as well. They've even done research where they put two plants with the same soil conditions, same thing, and on one of the, like the whole setting was exactly the same. Let's say the physical setting was exactly the same, but one plant they would give like high energy, they would give loving words, they would kind of bless it a lot of the times, and then the other plant, they would give really bad words, negative thoughts, all of that. And they could clearly see consistently throughout the study that the plant with more loving, higher energy was growing way better. So that's exactly what you mentioned there. And that's, yeah, it's in the whole universe, right?
Yes. Yes. It works for everything. It
And
works for plants, it works for animals, it works for people, and it works for the planet.
so what was a moment in your life when you started to realize this power that we can actually use to our advantage?
Without, that's a really good question. No one's ever asked me that question. You are a master. I, you're getting me to go really, really deep. I'm very impressed. When I was in my teens, I started reading books that you could call spiritual books. They didn't teach you, like, here are the 12 spiritual laws of the universe. That's very pompous. But I read Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse.
Hmm.
I read The Richest Man in Babylon.
Oh, well.
Yeah, and they,
How old were you?
in my teens and in
What?
my 20s. And I didn't know why I was reading them. I didn't know why I was called to those books. I didn't even know it was a category of books. I just said, oh, that's an interesting book. Oh, that's an interesting book. Only looking back, I realized, oh, they were in the same category called spiritual books. I didn't know that. And so I've been on this quest without realizing it for the first couple decades. And then I started consciously following this path and hiring masters and learning. And I find that even in the physical universe, I find that I am brighter, calmer, way more patient, way more kind, and way more grateful. Now, if those aren't powerful physical universe benefits, I don't know what are. And they didn't come directly from, you don't read a book and then you're calm. You don't read a book and then you're patient. But as I was reading, as I was soaking up this spiritual wisdom, I then started acting with far better behavior. And that's what I instill as best I can to my orbit coaching clients. And you're one of the best. You are soaking up my energy better than just about anyone. You are a real master, Matthew. And I know that you will succeed in getting many, many people to do the right thing with their farm or just their garden, and it'll improve the entire world.
Wow, Raymond, thank you very much for telling that. I really appreciate that. And you, in a nutshell, you actually gave my vision or my mission and why I'm here on this planet. So I want to know more from you about the fact that you are a very visionary man. Come, you've learned a lot throughout your life. You've written numerous books. You achieved so many great things in your life. Now I know that you jumped on one huge thing, which is AI, artificial intelligence. You became one of the early adapters, and now you're even teaching people to become AI certified teachers. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Mm-hmm. It took Henry Ford 30 years to sell his millionth car. It took Netflix 2.5 years to get its millionth client. It took Facebook a year to get its millionth member. And it took ChatGPT 5 days. 5 days. It is the fastest growing phenomenon the world has ever experienced. But not just is it a disruptive technology, it is a disruptive technology like we've never seen before, because Ford disrupted transportation, and Elon Musk is disrupting space travel and electronic vehicles. Steve Jobs disrupted music, but artificial intelligence is disrupting every single economic sector in the entire world. Every business in whatever sector they're in, from manufacturing lollipops to manufacturing rocket ships, every single sector is racing to adapt artificial intelligence. And you've seen it. When you go to Netflix and you type in that you want to see a particular movie, and maybe that movie isn't on Netflix, it doesn't say, sorry, we don't play that movie. It says, people who are interested in that movie have also rented or seen the following movies. And so artificial intelligence has noticed that if you like this, you'll also like that. And you've gotten used to it. When you call a large company and you talk to a person, you always have a suspicion, I think I'm not talking to a human, but they're so darn good, you can't tell any longer. And by the way, what they do is they'll have a guy, let's call him Ralph, a real human. Mm-hmm. And he has a certain voice, and they use his voice for 5 different responses. So when 5 different people call up, they get Ralph's voice giving AI answers. And if ever there's a problem, if ever the caller says something like, hey, I just gave you that answer, what are you, a jerk? If ever AI notices there's something wrong, the real Ralph enters the conversation without the person noticing there's any change and say, I'm sorry, I just got distracted for a moment. I apologize. And you don't know that it's switched from AI to a human. And meanwhile, the other Ralphs are still going with other callers.
Now, that's amazing. That's really mind-blowing, actually, like how the job market is going to transition. Well, yes. God knows any market in the next 5 years, maybe less.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be 5 years. It's going to go faster than you ever imagine, because right now, another Matthew with the same energy and enthusiasm and wisdom and university qualifications as you is 10 times faster than you and 10 times smarter than you if he knows AI and you don't.
Well, heck, I will be the first one to
Yes, you will be the one.
Because I'm taking your course.
That's right. And you'll beat the other guys out. The other Matthews will be toppled. That's true. That's true. I gave the example in the wrong direction. I'm sorry. And so right now, already the rule in my company is don't hire anybody unless they're AI certified. Don't hire anybody.
That's
because
incredible.
Whatever qualifications we want, like they've been in marketing for 8 years, or they've been a bookkeeper for 8 years, whatever, they're 10 times smarter and 10 times faster if they know AI. It's already happened. And large companies are so desperate that the starting salary is $180,000 a year for anyone who knows AI. Anybody, they're just desperate.
This podcast is brought to you by the Garden of Your Dreams Masterclass. Are you struggling with finding the right tools and tricks for your garden? Are you lacking the confidence to cultivate the garden you have always wanted? Do you have a backyard with lots of potential, but you get overwhelmed by the lack of knowledge and time to do gardening? Then the Garden of Your Dreams Masterclass is for you. Now, you know what? Let's take the opportunity and tie it back to this podcast, the Regenerative Design Podcast, where I want to show the world that we can do good for our planet and do good in business. Now, how do you think we can tie in AI into this industry? Because, you know, we are facing, in the next 5 years, we're going to be facing a lot of difficult issues with our climate. It's already happening everywhere. Wildfires, storms, every kind of difficult climatological situation is just going to get worse. So how do you think we can incorporate AI and to solve this?
Well, I would spend an hour or so creating a long prompt, maybe 20 to 100 lines long, giving it all the information I know and asking it to make predictions of what would happen if nobody changed. Whoever we are now, nobody learns anything. And then I would say, what if 5% of the population in the Western world learned AI and could forecast for themselves what would happen in their life? And they would realize if they don't change, something bad is going to happen in their life. And when you do that, when you show people how their own planet, how their own city could get injured, then they'll make the change within themselves. But if you can't forecast, if you just say it's going to get worse, see all those floods? Well, it's going to happen to you. Well, you just said it. There's no proof behind it. Mm-hmm. But when you can show actual proof of what will happen, because you're right, meteorologically, goodness, there's floods, there's mudslides, there's tsunamis, there's like the biggest heat wave the United States has ever had, and then the coldest spell that the United States has ever had, all within a few years. It's like it's gone wild. It's not like El Nino, which lasted a year. This is like permanent. And people are just starting to get it, but the permanent changes are scary. And Elon Musk wants to create Mars as a second address for humans because he says sometime in the next 3 to 5 decades, humanity or some part of it, like one nation or one bad guy, is going to do something so catastrophically stupid that it's going to make all or a large part of Earth uninhabitable. And we can see it with COVID, for gosh sakes. COVID was kind of mild. A few people died, a few people got sick. But what if it was a really weaponized drug that actually intended to cripple or kill people? And suddenly hundreds of millions or 1 billion people suddenly died, and they were just lying dead bodies all over the street. Or nuclear radiation or germ technology. There's so many possibilities these days. And Elon Musk says it's going to happen. We better have another address ready. And so he's preparing it. He's one guy who's preparing a second address for us. And I think he's right. I think there's enough bad guys around and there's enough access to technology and wisdom that some bad guy is going to get access to bad technology and be backed by enough money that he's going to do something catastrophically stupid. I don't like my prediction, but there's just too many. There's 8 billion people. If just 1% are bad, 1% of 8 billion is 80 million. 80 million bad guys. Some of them are going to have a lot of money and a lot of wisdom and are going to be able to do something catastrophic. But if everybody is nicer, if everybody is kinder, if everybody treats the soil nicer, then that'll make a big difference. Bad guys will notice that. And a lot of bad guys will, I don't know, become good guys, something like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's important that we have a kind of backup plan to save humanity. But in the meantime, I think we should do everything in our means to save this precious planet, because even if we can live on Mars, it's not going to be as fun as living here on a beautiful planet with the nature, the ocean, all the amazing things that we have.
Yes.
It's not going to be like that.
That's right.
So we have to do everything in our possibilities. So I wonder if you have any advice for younger people that can get overwhelmed by all the news that we talked about. Like it's really overwhelming for many people to still get out of bed and make something of their life and make something positive for our planet. How can you motivate them?
One thing I'd like to suggest to young people, and actually anyone, is turn off the news. Turn off the news. First of all, bad news is more exciting than good news. Not because CNN is a bad company, but rather when you were a caveman 1 million years ago and you heard a rustling of leaves behind you, It might have been the rustling of the leaves because of wind, but it might have been a rustling of the leaves because there's a tiger about to jump out and kill you. And so bad news is more important than good news, unfortunately. But to your actual survival as a caveman, it was. In caveman times, if you were more attuned to bad news, then you would jump out of the way of the tiger and you would live and you would pass your genes down to Matthew and me. And
Probably the ones
so
that didn't just never survived, right?
that's right. They didn't. And so they didn't pass their genes down. You can't make love with a cave girl if you're dead. And so we today are more attuned to bad news. And CNN has the money to find bad news everywhere. Like it used to be when I was young, I was brought up in Toronto, Canada, that the news was about Toronto. I mean, who cared about Buenos Aires? Who cared about Iceland? We didn't even know where Iceland was, for God's sakes. But now CNN can find some bad news happening anywhere in the world. And they bring it to us, and then we feel worse and worse and worse. And I haven't had a television for about 30 years, just so I can't get attacked by that bad news. But even still, some bad news is so general knowledge that it still gets in. Mm-hmm. So, for example, right now, it's a election year, and I hope you don't think this is old news, even if you're watching this in 2025 or 2026. But right now, the poor people who are living in early 2024 in the United States are faced with either voting for a person who has lost his mind a little bit. Like when he gets on stage, he gets confused. He's not sure what's happening. Or you can vote for a guy who has been accused of 91 criminal charges. I don't even know how I could make 91 criminal offenses. I don't know how to do that. Even if I tried, I don't know how to do it. And so you're voting between a guy who may not have all of his mental faculties versus a guy who's been accused of 91 crimes. Those are the two best people we got in America. Out of 350 Americans, those are the two best we got. Even without a television, I know about that. And so some bad news is going to get into you, even if you don't watch the actual news. And the best thing to do is to do something good locally. Maybe it's helping an old lady across the street, but because we're on this particular podcast, it's having your farm be more organic or more regenerative, or having your garden be healthier and not spraying. So when you start doing things locally, just for you, you'll feel better. You will feel better. And when tens of millions of people, because Matthew is powerful, he's young now, but he's so powerful, he's going to be well known in the future and he's going to make a big impact. When his impact comes through and tens of millions of people start behaving better, people who own a garden, people who own a farm, when they start behaving better individually, the whole planet will be better. And when the planet's better and people see a brighter future for themselves, maybe they'll choose better presidents. Maybe they'll affect climate in a healthier way. Maybe there won't be as much terrorism. Like when people feel better about themselves, they don't need to hurt other people. It's when they feel bad about themselves that they lash out.
Yeah, I think that's a great advice to start with the smallest thing you can, right?
Yes.
I think Nelson Mandela said that he always makes his bed in the morning because then you've already achieved one thing that is good. So start with making your bed. And that's something that I took over from him. And it really gives me a sense of like, I've already achieved something in the first 2 minutes when I wake up. So that's something I like to do. Now,
Matthew, I like making my bed so much that even if my wife's still in bed, I make it and I cut out a little hole for her face.
That's hilarious.
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, I think I want to start wrapping up here. Is there anything else that you want to share with my audience about doing something good for our planet?
I want to tell you one of my favorite quotes. Snowmen fall to earth unassembled. Snowmen fall to earth unassembled. In other words, when it's snowing, everybody can see the snow. And then you can manufacture from that whatever you wish. And what most people manufacture is, oh no, I don't even want to go to work today because I'm going to get into a car accident. Even if I don't get into a car accident, there's going to be terrible traffic, or I'll try to shovel the snow and injure my back. So they manufacture bad news. But that's not what kids do. Kids manufacture in their minds snowmen. So the next time something happens in your family or in the news or whatever, next time something happens, it's snow. Make snowmen. And Matthew is inviting you to make snowmen, in other words, to make something nice locally with your own garden and your own farm, and you will help the whole world.
Wow, that's incredible. Thank you for that. So I have two more questions for you, and then we're going to wrap it up. One quick question. So imagine Raymond, let's say 10 years down the line from today, you've continued to work on your business. It's become, well, it's already huge, but it's become like the centerpiece in the world of transforming people's lives and bringing the most
Yes.
potential out of each and every citizen on our planet.
Yes.
And you get awarded with the Nobel Peace Prize.
Hoo-ha.
Now you asked to get onto stage. What do you say?
Goodness gracious. That is the number one best question I've ever been asked. And I'm speechless, which is a very bad brand for a professional speaker to be speechless. I I have to tell you, I can't answer that question. You got me. Your answer is big. So your question is bigger than me. Wow. Wow. But if I'm ever on your show again, I'll have an answer for you. It's just too big a question. I can't imagine it.
Okay. Well, you have 10 more years to prepare for that question because it might actually happen.
I
So
look forward to it.
thank you, Raymond. Thank you so much for being on my show. A final question to you. How can people reach out to you? How can they connect with you if they feel like working with you?
Well, how about if I gave away a book? I've written a book called Double Your Income, Doing What You Love.
Wow.
Double your income, doing what you love. When I say that to people, they always think that if they switch to doing what they love, they're going to have to take a cut in pay. But if you look around, all the people who are wealthy are the people who are doing what they love. And the people who are whining about their job, it's because they have low income because they can't stand their job. So the truth is, when you switch to doing what you love, your income actually goes up. And I'll give it to you, I'll give it to your listeners for free.
Wow.
They can just go to Aaron, AARON.com. That's it. It's a real short URL. AARON.com. And on the top right corner is a free book, Double Your Income, Doing What You Love. It was published by a New York City publisher, John Wiley and Sons. And it's my only hardcover book, actually, but they can get it as an instant download at no charge.
Wow, that's amazing. This is actually huge value to my audience because that's exactly what they need. Because many people in this industry are working to do good for the planet, but they think that, or many people think that they can not make a lot of money with that. But you're an exact proof of this can. So go out and check out Raymond Aaron's website. Raymond, thank you very much for being on my show. This was an honor and a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Well, I'd like to reciprocate and say you are the absolute best interviewer I've ever had. One question I had to think for a long time. Another question I couldn't even come up with an answer. That's never happened to me. Never. I've never been lost for words. You are the best interviewer, and you are going to be a world leader in regenerative farming and garden design. I look forward to following your career.
Thank you very much, Raymond. I really appreciate that. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.